streaming. All right. What? All right, so I'm gonna watch some of this. This might take 35 minutes. I'm gonna lift some weights in the background and watch this. And then if I have questions or things that I think I could ask ChatGPT or who is this, Grok, I'll ask them this. And then we'll probably check on Bitcoin price, or maybe I'll just have it up here. It won't be too distracting, but we'll just see as Bitcoin probably, retraces. Probably retraces back to like 109, or at least 112. Let's see. I'm gonna mute myself during this because.
Your family.
Okay, commercials. Thank you. Just need to finish my small break. Let's see. Wrap look in your screen. Okay, so I am going to mute myself now and then play the video. No, I have to actually take the properties and turn it on some.
This is Jeremy's IT Lab. This course aims to be a complete course for the CCNA, including everything you need to pass the exam, all 100% free. Stay tuned till the end of the video for the quiz to test your knowledge of the material in this video. Also, remember to download and use the Anki flashcards with the link in the description. Let's get started. The second lesson is about interfaces and cables. In the last video, we talked about some different kinds of devices you will find in networks. This lesson will focus on how we connect them, specifically, how we connect them with cables. Wireless connections are also a topic we'll cover, but that's for later in the course. Take a look at this photo. This is the front of a switch. Notice the 24 interfaces, also known as ports. Remember, as we learned in the last lecture, one characteristic of switches is that they tend to have lots of interfaces to connect end hosts like PCs and servers to. Now let's look at those words above the interfaces. I'll zoom in. 10/100/1000 base T ports, 1 to 24. Ports are auto MDIX. Unless you've already studied this stuff, you probably have no idea what that means. Don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll understand all of this and more. Now let's focus on the interfaces themselves. I'll zoom in again. Do you recognize this shape? If your computer is connected to a wired network, it's surely using a port like this to connect to the network. These are called RJ45 ports. RJ stands for registered jack, by the way. Let's look at the RJ45 connector at the end of a cable. I'm sure you've seen one before. These are all cables with RJ45 connectors. As you can see, there are some variations in design and color, but all of these connectors would fit into the ports we saw in the previous slide. The RJ45 connector is used on the end of a copper Ethernet cable. There are Ethernet cables which do not use copper wiring as well, but we'll get to that later. First of all, though, what is Ethernet? Ethernet is a collection of network protocols and standards, rather than just a single protocol. So really, Ethernet isn't one single thing, making it difficult to define exactly what it is. For the purpose of this lesson, we will focus on types of cabling as defined by Ethernet standards. As said above, there are many standards included in Ethernet, but the focus of this lesson is interfaces and cables, so that's what we'll focus on. However, We will learn other aspects of Ethernet in future lessons. Now, before we learn about Ethernet cable standards, I want to give a brief explanation of why we need network protocols and standards. If two people are talking to each other, and one only speaks English, and the other only speaks Japanese, there's not going to be much or any communication between them. What they need is some agreed-upon system of communicating, like a common language between them. Network protocols serve that purpose for network devices. That's why standards like Ethernet exist. Since we're talking about interfaces and cables in this video, here's a more relevant example. If you're trying to connect to, for example, a network switch, but the maker of the cable and the maker of the switch haven't agreed upon the size and shape of the connector and port, you won't be able to connect them. That's why there are industry standards that all vendors follow, both in terms of physical standards like connectors and cables, as well as logical standards like IP, the Internet Protocol.
Introducing Samra Origins, crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors.
Now, connections between devices in a network operate at a set speed. These speeds are measured in bits per second. What is a bit? Well, it's a value represented by either a 0 or a 1. This binary code is how computers work. YouTube, this video, your operating system, all of it is just a series of zeros and ones which your computer interprets. When communicating across a copper network cable, a variation in the electrical signal is interpreted by the receiving device as a 0 or a 1. So that's a bit. What's a byte? Here we have a series of 8 bits. 8 bits is equal to 1 byte. Now, speed is measured in bits per second. Imagine a byte, 8 bits, of data being sent along a wire. It reaches the neighboring device 1 bit at a time like this. It doesn't operate 1 byte at a time like this. So remember, speed is measured in bits per second. For example, kilobits per second, megabits per second, gigabits per second, and not bytes per second. Data on a hard drive, for example, is measured in bytes, however. So remember, a gigabyte is actually 8 times larger than a gigabit. So let's review some of these measurements. 1 kilobit is equal to 1,000 bits. Add 3 zeros to that, and you get 1 megabit, which is 1 million bits. Add another 3 zeros, and you get 1 gigabit, or 1 billion bits. Add another 3 zeros to that, and you get 1 terabit, 1 trillion bits. You're not going to see larger units than this when it comes to network speed, and really you're not going to see terabits either. Speeds are always increasing, however, so terabits per second speeds may be commonplace soon enough. Now, there are further units. Here's a snapshot from Wikipedia. Beyond terabits, there are petabits, exabits, zetabits, yottabits, and more. Don't worry about memorizing all of these, though. You're not going to see network speeds like these anytime soon. Okay, finally, let's talk about some Ethernet standards. These are all defined in the IEEE 802.3 standard. The IEEE is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. You'll notice all of these Ethernet standards begin with IEEE 802.3. Let's take a look. So, here's a table of some IEEE standards for copper Ethernet cables. We'll also take a look at fiber optic cables later in this lesson, but I decided to split them up. We have one for each of the common network cable speeds: 10 megabits per second, 100 megabits per second, 1 gigabit per second, and 10 gigabits per second. The next column lists the common names. These are the names we usually use when talking about different network interfaces, cables, and their speeds, for example in a work environment. The next column lists the official IEEE standard in which they are defined. You would probably never use these names when talking with other network engineers about. That's totally out of the scope of the CCNA, but just so you know the meaning. T refers to twisted pair cabling, and we'll talk about that very soon. Finally, the maximum cable length. Notice that all of them are 100 meters. That's the maximum length for twisted pair cables as defined in Ethernet for performance and technical reasons. So that's a lot of information, but I recommend you memorize these standards. It may seem difficult, but with the flashcards in the description, it's actually quite easy. So don't forget to download and use the flashcards in the description, and also make your own if you want. Okay, now let's continue and look in more detail at the physical cables themselves. The copper cables used in Ethernet standards are UTP cables. UTP stands for unshielded, twisted pair. Unshielded means that the wires have no metallic shield, which can make them vulnerable to electrical interference. The twisted pair part is easy to understand from this photo. As you can see, there are 4 pairs of cables twisted together. The twist actually helps protect against electromagnetic interference, or EMI. So there are 4 pairs of wires twisted together. That makes 8 wires in total. Let's take a look at one of those RJ45 connectors. The answer is C.
If you want to learn Python for or engineering, then you need
EMI. So there are 4 pairs of wires twisted together. That makes 8 wires in total. Let's take a look at one of those RJ45 connectors we saw earlier. If you count the number of pins here, you'll find that there are 8 pins, perfect for the number of wires we saw in the last photo. However, not all of the Ethernet standards we saw before actually use all 8 wires. 10 base T and 100 base T, also known as Ethernet and fast Ethernet cables, use 2 pairs or 4 wires. 1000 base T and 10G base T, however, use all 4 pairs or 8 wires. Let's focus on the first 2 for now, 10 base T and 100 base T. So let's say we're connecting a PC to a switch with a fast Ethernet connection. These numbers represent the pins on the RJ45 on the PC's network interface card and the switch's interface. There are 8, but we will only use 4 or 2 pairs, since this is a fast Ethernet or 100 base T connection. The first pair is at pin positions 1 and 2, and will connect to pins at positions 1 and 2 on the switch's network interface. Although in this diagram the wires look straight, remember that in a UTP cable, the pairs are twisted together. So in a real cable, these 2 wires would actually be twisted together like in the photo we saw. The PC will use pins 1 and 2 to transmit data to the switch, which we can write as TX. Because the PC is transmitting data on pins 1 and 2, the switch cannot transmit data on those pins. It has to receive data, which we can write as RX on pins 1 and 2. There's an important point to remember here. The network interface card on a PC or server transmits data on pins 1 and 2, and the interfaces on a switch receive data on pins 1 and 2. Now, the next pair that is used in a 10 base T or 100 base T cable is not 3 and 4. It's 3 and 6. And of course, the function of each pin is opposite of the pair on pins 1 and 2. On the switch, pins 3 and 6 are used to transmit data, and on the PC, pins 3 and 6 are used to receive data. This allows for what's called full duplex transmission. Full duplex transmission means that both devices can send and receive data at the same time, and no problems like collisions will occur because they use separate wires to transmit and receive data. Just like that, both devices send data at the same time, and there are no problems. Let's change the device on the left from a PC to a router. Just as a PC usually connects to a switch usually connects to a router. Once again, it's a fast Ethernet or 100 base T connection, so 2 pairs are used, 1 and 2, and 3 and 6. Now, which pairs on which side are used to transmit, and which are used to receive? Well, we know how a switch functions from the last slide. Pins 1 and 2 receive data, and pins 3 and 6 transmit data. How about a router? Well, the network interfaces on a router transmit and receive data on the same pairs that a PC's network interface card does. A router transmits data on pins 1 and 2, and receives data on pins 3 and 6. Again, Ethernet uses full duplex transmission, so the 2 devices can send data at the same time with no issues. So remember this. Routers transmit data on pins 1 and 2, and receive data on pins 3 and 6. This is the same as a PC. Once again, switches are the opposite. They receive data on pins 1 and 2, and transmit data on pins 3 and 6. When connecting a PC to a switch, or a router to a switch, this works fine. Because they transmit and receive on opposite pin pairs, a regular cable like this works well. This kind of cable, by the way, is called a straight-through cable. Remember, a copper Ethernet cable has 2 RJ45 connectors, one on each end. This kind of cable is called a straight-through cable because pin 1 on one end connects straight through to pin 1 on the other end. Pin 2 connects to pin 2, pin 3 connects to pin 3, etc. Now, in networks, we don't always connect PC to switch, switch to router. What if we want to connect a router to another router? Or maybe a switch to another switch? Or maybe connect 2 PCs together? Now I've replaced the switch on the right with another router. What will happen if the router on the left sends data to the router on the right? Well, it's simply not going to work. The right router isn't prepared to receive data on pins 1 and 2 of its interface, so communication between the 2 routers just doesn't happen. So how can we successfully connect 2 routers together? Or perhaps 2 switches or 2 PCs? The same thing applies to connecting a PC directly to a router also, because they both transmit data on pins 1 and 2, and receive data on pins 3 and 6. Let's take a look. I've replaced the 2 routers with 2 switches, just to demonstrate that the same thing applies. If the switch on the left tries to transmit some data to the switch on the right, it doesn't work. The answer to this problem is a different type of cable. A straight-through cable connects pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, pin 3 to pin 3, etc. But there's another type of cable, called a crossover cable. In a crossover cable, a pin on one end of the cable doesn't connect straight to the same pin on the other end. Essentially, the pairs are reversed on each end. So pin 1 on one side connects to pin 3 on the other side, and pin 2 on one side connects to pin 6 on the other side. As you can see, the 2 pairs, 1 and 2, and 3 and 6, the transmit cable, they will be able to exchange data with no issues. Here's a chart reviewing different device types and the pins they use to transmit and receive data. Routers transmit data on pins 1 and 2 and receive data on pins 3 and 6. Firewalls are the same as routers. They transmit data on pins 1 and 2 and receive data on pins 3 and 6. PCs also transmit data on pins 1 and 2 and receive data on pins 3 and 6. Switches are the only different one of the group. Switches transmit data on pins 3 and 6 and receive data on pins 1 and 2. Try to remember these. The flashcards included in the description will help with this, so I recommend that you use them. While all of that is important information to know and can cause issues in networks even in the modern day, the truth is that most modern networking devices have evolved beyond having to worry about straight-through or crossover cables. That's because newer networking devices include a feature called Auto MDIX. Previously, if two switches were connected with a straight-through cable like this, they would be unable to communicate. However, Auto MDIX allows devices to automatically detect which pins their neighbor is transmitting data on and then adjust which pins they use to transmit and receive data. They can then exchange data normally. So, unless you're working with network equipment that is quite old, you don't really have to worry about straight-through and crossover cables. But this is good information to be aware of, and it's also good to learn about the concept of Auto MDIX, both for the exam and for real-world networking.
Imagine being able to build an app about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
So, we've talked a lot about 10 base T and 100 base T. But what about the higher speed copper Ethernet cables? 1000 base T and... Okay, we've covered a lot about connections using copper, meaning each pair isn't dedicated specifically to transmitting data or receiving data. This is part of the reason that they can operate at much faster speeds. Okay, we've covered a lot about connections using copper UTP cables. But there is a newer technology that is superior in many ways. For example, copper UTP wiring can be used for up to 100 meters. That's usually plenty within a LAN, but how about for larger networks? Look at this Cisco switch here. Here it has 24 ports for RJ45 connectors. These are the ports you would connect a copper UTP cable to. But what about these 4 interfaces? Take a look at this Cisco router also. It only has 4 RJ45 ports. The rest of them look like those other 4 ports on the switch. In these interfaces, you insert one of these. It's called an SFP transceiver. SFP means small form factor pluggable. So you insert one of these into the device, but still things aren't complete. What kind of cable connects to one of these? You connect one of these cables. This is a fiber optic cable. Rather than an electrical signal over copper wiring, these cables send light over glass fibers. Notice that there are 2 connectors on each end. That's because you need one connector to transmit data and one to receive data on each end. The copper UTP cables use separate wires within the cable to transmit and receive data. The fiber optic cables instead use separate cables to transmit and receive like this. Of course, transmit on the left connects to receive on the right, and transmit on the right connects to receive on the left. Now let's examine the structure of the cable itself. There are 4 numbered parts in this diagram, from the center to the outer layer. Number 1 is the fiberglass core itself. Light is transmitted down this core to transmit data from one device to another. Number 2 is cladding that reflects light. Number 3 is a protective buffer, which protects the fiberglass from breaking. And number 4 is the outer jacket of the cable. Now, there are a couple main types of fiber optic cables: single-mode fiber and multi-mode fiber. Let's check out their characteristics and differences. These are 2 examples of multi-mode fiber cables. The center represents the fiberglass core, and the blue represents the reflective cladding that reflects light down the cable. In multi-mode fiber cables, the core, the actual glass fiber, is wider than single-mode fiber. This wider core allows multiple angles, known as modes, of light waves to enter the fiberglass core, as you can see in these 2 diagrams. Notice the red and black lines representing light waves traveling down the fiberglass core, reflecting off the cladding at different angles. Multi-mode fiber allows longer cables than UTP, which are limited to 100 meters, but still shorter than single-mode fiber, which we will look at next. Multi-mode fiber cables are cheaper than single-mode fiber, and this is because they use cheaper transmitters, which are often LED-based. This is an example of a single-mode fiber cable. Again, the center represents the fiberglass core, and the blue represents the reflective cladding. The core diameter of a single-mode fiber cable is narrower than a multi-mode fiber, meaning the glass fiber is thinner. You can notice this in the diagram here, compared to the multi-mode fiber diagrams. Light enters at a single angle, known as a mode, from a laser-based transmitter. Notice in the diagram that the light wave travels straight down the core of the cable. Single-mode fiber allows longer cable lengths than both UTP and multi-mode fiber cables. And single-mode fiber cables are more expensive than multi-mode fiber cables, due to the more expensive laser-based transmitters used. Okay, now let's look at some standards for fiber optic cables like we did with UTP cables. Here's another chart like the one we looked at for copper UTP cable standards, this time for fiber optic cables. First up is a standard for 1 gigabit Ethernet over fiber, known as 1000 base LX. It is defined in the 802.3Z, or Z, standard. This standard can be used over single-mode or multi-mode fiber cables, and you can see the difference in the maximum cable lengths: 550 meters for multi-mode fiber, and 5 kilometers or 5,000 meters for single-mode fiber. Next up is 10G base SR, defined in the 802.3 AE standard, which operates at 10 gigabits per second. It uses multi-mode fiber and can support cable lengths up to 400 meters. Next is 10G base LR, also defined in the 802.3 AE standard, again operating at 10 gigabits per second. 10G base LR, however, uses single-mode fiber, and cable lengths can be up to 10 kilometers. Finally, 10G base ER, also part of the 802.3 AE standard, and operating at 10 gigabits per second. It supports cable lengths even longer than 10G base LR, with distances up to 30 kilometers possible over a standard connection. This is just a sample of fiber optic standards. There are plenty more. I will include flashcards to help you remember these standards, but to be honest, I doubt you'll be asked questions about specific details about the standards on the exam, but I don't know for sure. Cables.
This is all the code and get formatted responses.
Have auto MDIX, so B, they are connected with a crossover cable, is incorrect. Auto MDIX allows devices to detect which A, they are connected. Quiz question 1. You connect two old routers together with a UTP cable. However, data is not successfully sent and received between them. What could be the problem? A, they are connected with a straight-through cable. B, they are connected with a crossover cable. Or C, they are operating in auto MDIX mode. Pause the video to think about your answer. The answer is A, they are connected with a straight-through cable. Let's check each of the possible answers. A crossover cable is not the issue. In fact, a crossover cable would likely fix the issue. Because both routers transmit data on pins 1. Quiz question 2. Your company wants to connect switches in two separate buildings that are about 150 meters apart. They want to keep costs down if possible. What kind of cable should they use? A, UTP. B, single mode fiber. Or C, multi-mode fiber. Pause the video to think about your answer. Again, through cable. The answer is B, single mode fiber. Let's check the answers. Although UTP keeps costs down, it does not support distances of 3 kilometers. So A, UTP is incorrect. Although multi-mode fiber is cheaper than single mode fiber, it also does not support distances of 3 kilometers. So C, multi-mode fiber. A switch has the following indication over its network interfaces. What would happen if you connected to an identical switch with a straight-through cable? A, they would operate normally. B, they would operate at a reduced speed. Or C, they would be unable to communicate. Pause the video to think about your answer. The MDIX enabled, they would be able to communicate, even though they are connected with a straight-through cable. So C, auto MDIX, they wouldn't operate at a reduced speed. They simply wouldn't operate. Think about your answer. The answer is A, they would operate normally. Let's check. They would not operate at a reduced speed. The ports are auto MDIX enabled. However, even if they didn't have auto MDIX, they wouldn't operate at a reduced speed. They simply wouldn't operate. So B, they would operate at a reduced speed is incorrect. Because the ports are auto MDIX enabled, they would be able to communicate, even though they are connected with a straight-through cable. So C, they would be unable to communicate is incorrect. Because the ports are auto MDIX enabled, they would operate normally, regardless of whether they are connected with a straight-through cable or a crossover cable. So A, they would operate normally is the correct answer. Let's go to the final quiz question for this video. You do not have enough SFP interfaces to support many. If you want to show your support, please subscribe to the channel, like the video.
Okay, am I back? Hello? All right, that was good. I didn't really understand what some of it's kind of silly. But Auto MDX, it automatically tries to make it work.
Include a feature called Auto MDIX.
What was
Previously,
there
if two switches were connected
anything
with a
that
straight-through cable
reduced
like this,
speed?
they would be unable to communicate. However, Auto MDIX allows devices to automatically detect which pins their neighbor is transmitting data.
All right. Do we need to know much more? So Bitcoin didn't move really at all. It's kind of just right at the same spot. Actually, something's happening right now. But I don't think, I'm not sure the power is there. Do you think it's there? Does this line keep going down all the way to there? I mean, I don't know. Boy, that's funny looking. But I'm not going to get distracted with it. It's just whatever happens is going to happen. All right, let's take our flashcard practice exam. Look, we have 12 minutes left. Let's see if we can run through a good amount of these 57, because 57 is a lot more than what I was honestly planning on studying right now. I am getting hungry and I need to go to the grocery store afterwards, or I need to like probably do something like maybe just go make a burger real quick. What is the speed of an Ethernet connection? What? An Ethernet connection? 10.02b? Wait, what was it? What is the speed? 1 gigabyte, 1 megabyte, 100 megabytes per second is mine. What is this? What? What? Did I just exit out of that? Because hold on a second. That was like the first thing he went over. He talked about speed, and that's not. What is a speed? Not the. Maybe because this is like 5 years ago, and that's slow nowadays though. Or this is like maybe. Can you watch a YouTube video with 10 megabits per second? I don't know. I'm gonna go again because maybe we'll have to ask someone. 10G base LR maximum cable length. No way. No way I'm gonna go and memorize this. Nope. Yeah, I don't care. In a fast Ethernet connection, a router receives data on which pins? 3 and 6. I don't care. In fast Ethernet connection, a firewall receives data on which pins? Okay. I might have to yeah, I don't care. I'm not thinking I'm not gonna be the guy doing this, but this stuff would be good. But IEEE standard 100 megabits per second Ethernet. Oh man, that I should probably know. I should know my IEEE standards. So this is more of like where is where's the chart? What was the question? 100 megabits per second. So this is 802.E3 EU. So this is like this can be memorized. No one probably has this, but some people probably have gigabit internet and it's probably fiber. Maximum length 100 meters. Yeah, from the street, straight line to their house. Yeah, because they do wherever people are drilling straight lines, and they're probably drilling it right underneath my driveway. But you know what? I don't need that kind of speed of internet right now. Also, this is like this memorization is kind of pissing me off. I'm this is gonna hurt, but I'm gonna have to come back for this stuff. Uh, what is the speed of an Ethernet connection? 10 megabits per second. What is the speed of an Ethernet? Ethernet was originally defined in the EEE standard in 802.3. Okay. What are the two main kinds of fiber optic cable? UTP and no, fiber optic cable. Fiber optic. Single mode and multi-mode. In a fast Ethernet connection, a PC receives data on which pins? Fast? Fast?
The problem, veteran.
Oh, you should let me go around with having it watch a commercial. I mean, come on. Straight through cable crossover. Okay, the internet speeds are Ethernet standards for copper. So does fast mean just fiber? What was the question? In a fast connection, a PC receives data on which pins? Well, this is a switch and this receives data?
Specifically to transmitting data or receiving data. This is part of the reason that they can operate at much faster speeds. Okay, we've covered a lot about connections using copper UTP cables, but there is a newer technology that is superior in many ways. For example, directional, meaning each pair isn't dedicated specifically to transmitting data or receiving data. This is part of the reason that they can operate at much faster speeds.
3, 4, 5, 6?
Okay, we've covered a lot about connections using copper and 7 and 8. Information to be aware of, and it's also good to learn about the concept of auto MDIX, both for the exam and for real-world networking.
Oh, here we go.
PCs also
Well, this is UTP cables though, so is that fast? Three and 6. Okay, so the answer is looking for in a fast Ethernet connection, a PC receives data on which pins? 3 and 6. Okay. I don't want to see it again today. IEEE standard equals 100 megabits per second. IEEE standard blank. The IEEE standard, I know what I'm looking for. It's 802.3U. That's the same as what I'm using here at home. I don't want to see it again for a day at least. What is the speed of an Ethernet connection? What is the speed? 10 megabits per second. But why? What is the speed of an Ethernet connection? Why is this being asked to me? And it's not true in all cases. Chat GPT. Oh my God, I almost put that wrong. Why is this being asked to me on day 2 of CCNA flashcards? Okay. Never again, please. What is the speed of a 10 gigabit Ethernet? 10 gigs? What the fuck? Okay, IEEE standard blank is equal to 10 megabits per second. Well, I have somewhere where I can go look. 10 is 802.3i. Which is cheaper, single mode or multi-mode? Multi-mode, because single mode is more expensive because of the, yeah. IEEE standard 10 gigabits per second is 802.3 AN. Never again. How many pairs of wires are used in 10 gigabase T cable? I mean, it's something we can go figure out. So it's not something we need to memorize at this point until we take the test. How many pairs of wires? 10 G base T cable. You know what? 4 equals 8. Fiber optic cables are connected to blank transceivers in a router or a switch. Fiber optic cables are connected to blank transceivers. What? I missed that.
5 years ago, email addresses were.
Oh man, I wish I could get down and create these videos and just have people going through ads.
Connects to receive on the right, and transmit on the right connects to receive on the left. Now let's examine the structure of the cable itself. There are 4 numbered parts in this diagram, from the center to the outer layer. Other 4 ports on the switch. In these interfaces, you insert one of these. It's called an SFP transceiver.
SFP transceiver.
So you insert one of these into the device, but still things aren't complete. What kind of cable connects to one of these? You connect
Ether.
one of these
Oh,
cables.
fiber.
This is a fiber optic cable. Rather than an electric.
Cool. I remember when this all like kind of came out, or at least when it came to consumer. I think first we didn't ever have fiber internet, and still my mom has Xfinity. But I remember when we got like a sound bar, and like it came with a fiber optic cable for it, or like a red light that was shining through, and I was like, wow, how's that work? I don't think it's the same, but it's pretty damn cool. All right, Ethernet was originally defined in the tripoli standard as 802.3, yeah. Cables emit a faint signal outside of the cable, which can be detected and copied. What? UDP cables? Yo, that's wild. I did not know that. Um, cool. I think that was a good one. If auto MDX is disabled, what kind of UDP cable should be used to connect two routers together? Crossover. IEEE standard equals 1 gigabit per second. 802.3 blah, 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 AB. What are the wire pairs in a UTP cable twisted together? 3 and 6. No, I don't know. It protects against EMI. What are the wire pairs in a UTP cable twisted together? Oh, there you go. Okay. I was like, what the heck? Cables are vulnerable to EMI. UDP. What is the speed of fast internet connection? 100 megabits. What? Huh. So I have fast internet. A connection allows both devices to send and receive data at the same time. A Uh, didn't didn't I just say this one? It's not like crossover. It's not this. It's not that. A blank connection allows both devices to send and receive data at the same. Bidirectional. Full duplex.
Full duplex transmission means that both devices can send and receive data at the same time, and no problems like collisions will occur because they use separate wires to transmit and receive data. Just like that, both devices send data at the same time at positions 1 and 2 on the switch's network interface. Duplex transmission.
I'm worried that I'm not actually getting it because I'm.
Full duplex transmission means that both devices can send and receive data at the same time, and no problems like collisions will occur.
Full duplex. That's pretty good. So this one I got wrong. Which allows longer cables? Single mode or multi-mode? Single mode. I think it was like 10 kilometers. All right. How many bits are in 1 megabit? 1,000. 1 million. Oh yeah, 1 million. 1 million. Duh. 1 million. Damn. Multi-mode cables have a blank fiberglass core than a single mode fiber cables. Multi-mode fiber cables have a blank fiberglass core. Have more or less than multi-mode fiber cables. Thinner. Wait. Fiberglass core? What did that picture look like? The ones that. Let's cheat. There you go. So here's. Well, they're both. Here's. So look how the thin one's super. Wait. Core diameter. Core diameter. This. It's more narrow than the multi-mode. So the multi-modes have a thicker. So this is single. Multi-mode core diameter, this yellow kind of background, it's wider. So it's wider and the single is more narrow. So the multi-mode has a wider core, like the glass core is wider. All right, 10 minutes. How many bits are in a terabit? Oh my God, if a megabit was a million, gigabit was 100 million. Mega, giga, tera, peta, megatera. So what's another three zeros on top of 100 million? Is it 1 billion? Oh my gosh. It's 1 trillion. So because this is a million, this is so this is mega, this is a giga, and this is a trillion. A tera. A terabit is 1 trillion bits. Okay. This should be easy. I got it wrong. How many bits are in 1 kilobit? 1,000. Okay. How many pairs of wires are used in a 100 base T cable? I don't know.
Although in this diagram the wires look straight, remember that in a UTP cable, the pairs are twisted together. On the PC's network interface cable, receive data on pins 1 and 2. Now, the next pair that is used in a 10 base T or 100 base T cable is not 3 and 4.
4. 4 with 8 wires. I don't need to know this stuff. How many pairs of wires are used in a 100 base T cable? 8, or like probably double. What? Wait.
It's 3 and 6. And of course, the function of each pin is opposite of the pair on pins 1 and 2. On the switch,
What, bro?
I've recently come to learn that a lot of founders
In a fast Ethernet connection, a firewall transmits data on which pins? 1 and 2. If auto MCs is enabled, what kind of UTP connection cable? What type of crossover? Network speeds are measured in blank per second, megabits per second. If auto MDX is disabled, what kind of UTP cable should be used to connect a PC and a switch? A PC and a switch? Just a normal cable, just a normal, straight through. 100G base ER maximum cable length, 30 kilometers. What is the speed of a gigabit connection? Mega was 1,000. Gigabit would be 1 million. Gigabit would be 100 million. Next time I'm just going to say a gigabit. Okay, which 4-pin pairs are used in 1,000 base T or 10? Which pin pairs? Is that a fiber thing? Did he do that over here? Because he's not updating there we go. All of them. How many bits are in 1 byte? 8. 10 base G maximum cable length. Oh my god. I don't know, dude. I don't need to know that. I'm not gonna lay cable. 10 SR 400 meters. No. What kind of UTP cable should we use to connect a router and a switch? If it's disabled, it doesn't need to be, it will line up perfect. So straight through. How many bits are in 1 megabit? 1,000. Why am I getting that wrong? Why did I think that was 1 bit? How many bits are in 1 megabit? It's 1 million. Bro, mega means 1 million, dude. Jeez. A blink connection allows both devices to send and receive data at the same time. Bidirectional. What does bidirectional mean again? What was the word he was using? Full duplex. 1000 base LX maximum cable length. Good thing I'm opening up to this right now. 5 kilometers or multi-mode 500. So it depends if it's multi-mode or single mode. What is the name of the connector on the end of the Ethernet UTP cable? Oh, he said it. That was something I wanted to take away from this because I always call these Ethernet connections, but these are called RJ45s. These are RJ45s. What is the maximum length of an Ethernet UTP cable? I don't remember. 100 meters? Dang, dude. Think about it. How are they all laid? How does it work? 100 meters is not very far. Holy smoke. So every neighborhood. That is, hold on, that's like really something I didn't know.
Just so you know the meaning. T refers to twisted pair for performance and technical reasons. So that's a lot of information, but I recommend you the maximum cable lengths and T. Well, base refers to baseband signaling. That's totally out of the scope of the CCNA, but just so you know the meaning. T refers to twisted pair cabling, and we'll talk about that very soon. Finally, the maximum cable length. Notice that all of them are 100 meters. That's the maximum length for twisted pair cables as defined in Ethernet for performance and technical reasons. So that's a lot of information, but I recommend you memorize these standards. It may seem difficult, but with the flashcards in the description, it's actually quite easy.
Okay. I don't know why I'm so shocked, but like, do they have to like have some node infrastructure every 100 meters or something? All right, which two pin pairs are used in 10 base T or 100 base T? I have this open right now. Wait, which two pin pairs? No, because pin pairs are talking about. I don't care. I don't care. What is the name of the feature that allows a device to automatically adjust which RJ45 pin pairs it uses to transmit and receive data? Okay, so what's the name of the feature that allows a device to automatically adjust? What's the name of the feature? Well, it's not full duplex, so what's the name of the
So don't
feature
forget to download and use the flashcards
that allows a device? Hold on a second. What's the name of the feature that allows a device to automatically adjust? It's like the auto thing, which RJ pins is used to transmit. So that is that a special? That's a good point. So this thing is called a small form factor pluggable. It allows the Ethernet to connect to. It allows.
these into the device, but still things aren't complete. What kind of cable connects to one of these? You connect one of these cables.
Yeah, no. It's nothing to do with this. Okay, so hold on. Not full duplex.
At the same time, and no problems like collisions will occur because they use separate pins at positions 1 and 2 on the switch's network interface. Although in this diagram the wires look straight, remember that in a UTP cable, the pairs are twisted together.
Auto MDX.
All of that is important.
Imagine bringing your side
I knew it was
project to
auto
life
something, right?
just by thinking about it. Meet base.
So auto
Important
MDX
information to
is
know,
the
and can cause issues in
feature
networks
that
even in
allows
the
the
modern
device
day.
to automatically
The truth is that most modern networking
adjust.
devices have evolved beyond having.
Auto MDX is the feature.
Because newer networking devices include a feature called Auto MDIX. Previously, if two switches were connected with a straight-through cable like this, they would be unable to communicate.
So in the background, there's this auto feature on newer devices. Okay, blank cables emit a faint signal outside of the cable, which can be detected and copied. UDP. What kind of cable connects a pin pair on one end of a UTP cable to the opposite pair on the other end? What kind of cable connects a pin pair on one end? Crossover. How many bits are in 1 gigabit? 100 million. No, I don't. Yeah, it's because a mega would be 1 million, so gig is another 3, so 100 million. No, it's a billion. 100 and move the one up. I don't know, dude. I don't know why I'm getting this wrong. I need to know that that's correct. That's a billion. What kind of cable connects a pin pair on one end of a UTP to the same pin pair straight through? Blank fiber cables allow multiple modes of light waves to enter the fiberglass core. Multimode. In a fast Ethernet connection, a switch transmits data on which pins? 1 and 2, 3 and 6. In blank fiber cables, light travels straight through the fiber cables at a single mode. Multi-mode cables have a blank fiberglass core than multi-mode have a more thick core than have a thicker fiberglass core than single mode cables, or wider. What does UTP stand for? Universal Transmission Protocol. I don't know. Unshielded twisted pair. 1000 base LX was defined in the IEEE standard as 302 something, 802.3. How many pins are in an RJ8? In a fast Ethernet connection, a switch receives data on which pin? In a fast Ethernet connection, a switch receives data on which pin? 3 and 6, 1 and 2. In a fast Ethernet connection, a router switches data on which pins? 1 and 2. In a fast Ethernet, a PC transmit data on which ones? 1 and 2. And what is the name of the connector on the end of an Ethernet UDP cable? RJ45. Okay, I kind of wanted to get done, so I just probably scored everything too high. But you know what? I'm done. I did it. The thing I'm going to take away from this is back in the day, the old UTP connections were actually, you could like get some signal off of them, and that's pretty dangerous. The other thing is auto MDX back in the day, or I mean they didn't have it, and so newer modems have auto MDX, so you can actually just plug in like a switch to a switch, and if they're not talking to each other, it will automatically, connect the right pins of the RJ45. And I didn't know that there was a 100 megabit connection, and yeah, it competed, but it did just have a wick that or right now it's showing a wick that is kind of like an uncertain wick, more to the downside. So that's where we are now. And yeah, maybe I should import day. Wait, I never did this. All right, let's download this. Wait, do I know how to do this? How can I open this? What is this? This isn't gonna be okay. Yeah, I don't know how to open a PKT. Huh. Day one network devices. Day one lab. Okay, let's go through this packet tracer lab real quick. This is the problem. I'm gonna have to mute myself.
Nice try, but remember,
refers to hands-on practice with the technology you're studying. Since you're studying for the CCNA, labbing means practicing configuring Cisco router. Download Packet Tracer, so you can log in here. Or if you don't have an account yet, click on Sign Up at the bottom of this page to create one.
Does he go through it?
Note that when you install Packet Tracer and then open it, you will have to log into your Cisco account again. After that, you should see my lab.
Okay, well, I'm probably gonna do this off and then come back to it. It's been an hour, and that's all I wanted to hang out for. And yeah, it's time to go eat dinner, go grocery shopping. All right. Oh, I'm gonna try to do this again. I'm gonna try to do this every day for, I don't know, at least finish out the week strong. Let's see. I have some family though. Oh, I don't. I think if I really went through this really hardcore mode, it'd be a cool thing to have, but I don't think it's exactly directly for me. But I want to get to this stuff down here. I want to get to. It's only 10 minutes though. And he has a 34-minute on port security. Like, what the heck, man? Yeah. I think I know a lot of this stuff already. Like a light overview of how it works, but access control list, like, dude, one. Wait, what is this? Lab. Okay, lecture, lab. And then he's still talking about more ACLs. And then another lab. Okay, what's the difference between standard and extended ACLs? All right. But how many minutes, dude? Like, he goes over this this is 60, this is 2 hours about what's the difference between a standard and extended ACL. And then he's going to talk 45 minutes, part 3 IPv6. Like, dude, I don't know. So far it was okay. And this is 5 years old, so I don't know. Hmm.
A toasty Thomas's brekkie. Oh. Thanks, Tom. Huzzah!
All right, so I still have to do the lab for day 2. There wasn't a lab for day 1. No, it was just like getting the Unky flashcards. All right, well, wait. I have a lot of day 2 stuff to do. I have this day 2 lab. I have the interfaces and cables day 2 lab, and then I have a packet tracer. Oh, I have a day 1 lab. So I haven't done the packet tracer day 1 lab. Okay. All right, maybe I'm gonna go make some quick food and then maybe I'll keep going because I really haven't gotten very far yet.
First of all,
All right. Dang. Okay, let's come back to this. All right, bye for